This is one of my favorite segments, which is that would never work in therapy, where I've taken something from movies or pop culture and I put it to two psychologists here, and I say, would this work in therapy, or kind of what's going on here? Um, you guys up for it?
Always.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to describe a scene here, and then I think you'll figure out what we're talking about. But after conflict or rejection in a TV show or a movie, the pursuer shows up uninvited with a big public display meant to prove love, like an iconic gesture or spectacle. The cultural script implies the other person should be moved into reconciliation by the intensity of that gesture. The problem is that the gesture can override the other person's stated boundary, create social pressure to respond positively, and treat persistence.
Yeah, I'm just interrupting you right now.
Oh,
And here's why. I imagine if movies were like the real, like, actual real life or TV shows, it's usually a dude who's made some mistake at doing this, holding up the big boom box, or like
boombox.
doing something. She'd look out the window and go, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" Like, now, I'm not a woman, and so I'm missing. But Gail, I think, yes. Go. What would you?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of a sucker for rom-com, but it is
Yeah,
only because it is entirely divorced from reality.
yeah.
And these big public displays don't fix anything. They very often, when you see these in couples in real life, it is a momentary sort of energy that the relationship has found. And the fear always becomes, can we continue that? Can we continue to invest that level of energy in this
Hmm.
relationship? And then the other party becomes disappointed because the amount of, again, I don't have a better word for it than energy, isn't sustainable. And so we find ourselves either set up for disappointment, um or frustration again. And so we're back in the cycle and we're not really addressing the underlying issue with any sort of real substance.
Right, right. The question is this a grand gesture that is emblematic of a major change to come that will resolve the conflict, or is this a grand gesture that will be seen as just another big disappointment? And I think that the rom-com makes it look like once the grand gesture is done, everything gets better. But
Right.
the underlying issues are still there. And I've certainly seen this in, not in quite the same way as in a rom-com, but a couple who's struggling, and the partner who's maybe not been attentive enough, like, plans a weekend away, and they have a wonderful weekend together, and it's great, and they reconnect and they feel really good about the relationship, and they come back and they're like, okay, but I'm worried it won't last. And
Mhm.
sometimes it is part of a major shift in the way a person looks at their relationship, what they do. Often it's not.
Right.
This is not
Now,
enough.
can I flip it for a moment? Just in the idea of the rom-com, so away
Hmm.
from maybe this real life practicality, but very
Uh-huh.
often we're set up in the rom-com where you have kind of a triangle happening. This big gesture occurs, and the intended recipient of the gesture then has to make a decision between the new person, the interloper, or the person who's made the gesture.
Oh,
And
yeah.
right. And so, very often, the attentions or affections of the intended recipient shift to the person who's made the gesture, leaving the interloper kind of high and dry. Is that person the asshole for leaving the interloper high and dry after this one big push for attention?
Yeah, probably, because a lot of times the quote unquote interloper isn't even a bad guy. Think about, like, Mrs. Doubtfire,
Hmm.
Robin Williams in that movie, and I hate shitting on Robin Williams. Is an amazing, amazing human being with such tragedy at the end of his life. And to his credit, he apparently stood up and said, "This movie can't end with me being with her. Like, it has to end with me not being with her," because I think the original script had it ending with her falling back in love with him. but like he was the bad guy.
Yeah.
And the boyfriend, the ex-wife's boyfriend was an amazing, terrific person who was loving and caring and supportive and nurturing to her children. And somehow he was the bad guy. And Robin Williams, who's like lied and falsified stuff and cheated, did all
And was intrusive.
right. He was the bad guy in that movie. Like,
Yeah.
and Pierce Brosnan was the good guy.
Oh, that's right. It's Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, and he was the
Oh my gosh.
like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that it's yes, they're rom-coms and yes, they're a gross distortion of reality. Um,
Wait, so okay.
yeah,
Yes, all of this. So, Dan, someone comes into your office, they plop down, right? They've been having all of these romantic troubles, and they come to you and say, I can't believe it. This person I've been dating did this grand gesture. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. How do I
yeah.
figure this out? How do you help them? What are the conversations? What are the things that this individual can kind of think about when making the decision between the person who made the gesture and the maybe so-called interloper or nobody at all?
Uh,
How do you help that person?
make a decision.
Mhm. Or whether to see if it's real or not, or to rely on it, or to believe it.
I think what I would say in my office if someone says, "Well, how do I trust that he's going to really change or she's going to really change?" Um, don't don't. Oh, you're talking about choosing between them and the previous person or the new person.
Or
Uh,
just, yeah, right. Or
Usually,
just to,
when
what do I
I'm
do
yeah
with this now that this
when
has
I'm
occurred?
right when I'm working with someone in therapy, um, I haven't had that scenario. I've had the
Hmm.
scenario of I'm really unhappy with my partner, and my partner's made this grand gesture, and they want me to bring them back, and I don't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah,
It's
that
that
scenario.
yeah, it's that. I mean, with apologies for quoting Ronald Reagan, which I do weirdly often. Um, trust but verify.
Mm,
Like, yes, give them if you want to potentially make it work, great. Give them. You may want to give them an opportunity if you want. I wouldn't tell this person that, but I would, because I don't. We don't give advice. But I think it's okay to give an opportunity to someone to change, but also to be wary of that and not necessarily think the change is going to happen because of the grand gesture. And if I'm working with a person making the gesture, which is more often these days because most of my practice is couples and men, um, don't expect your partner to be like, oh, now it's better. Like, expect your partner to be wary. Expect your partner to not accept this as a major change. Because sometimes they'll come back and they say, I did this and I did this and I did this, and it's been this long, been a month, and she still doesn't seem to trust me yet. I'm like, dude, these things take a lot of time. And you and change, people aren't going to be trusting of change, and they shouldn't be trusting of change. So your job is to be accepting of their lack of trust in the change as a normal part of the process, not as something that's a flaw, but a positive.
yeah. And I think on the other side of it, it's really a challenge. I mean, I think I probably see the flip of your
Yeah.
clinical population, right? Which is a lot of women. And again, as you pointed out, this does tend to follow along gender lines. And
Hmm.
so in my population, it really is, yes, of course, there's a little bit of a sense of distrust or wariness that
Hmm.
comes with this. And if you in any way want this relationship to work, you do need to lean into that a little bit and you need to acknowledge it because if you hold this back and you continue to metaphorically hide behind a self protective wall, then
Hmm.
you guys aren't going to make the progress that you would like to see. You know, it's not realistic to expect someone to do gesture after gesture after gesture
Hmm.
after
Hmm.
gesture with no feedback. So, again, it's that have the conversation. I really appreciate this. And, big gestures aren't what I'm looking for. It's the small things often, that consistency
Right.
that's really going to help bring trust in because trust is sort of an active building process between two people, but it can't work until you put a little bit of trust in that system. You don't get to withhold it and then all of a sudden one day just go, here, I have a whole bunch of trust for you now that you've done all of these things. It's a
Right.
lot of slow building, intentional, and it can feel really risky.
Yeah, trust comes from that long-term predictability and
Mhm.
stability. Like I know my partner will be there. I know my partner will has I know my partner will be productive. I know my partner will be honest and truthful with me. I know my partner will, like I can predict and I can trust. And that takes a lot of time to develop.
So you're saying then just having a boombox, or if I'm thinking about Hitch getting hit by a car and stopping traffic in New York City for a while at the end, that's not a solution to save relationships.
I, I I'm going to go with a no on that one.
Yeah. So, I mean, to kind of wrap up, I guess, like, love doesn't become more valid just because it gets louder. And, grand gestures make great movies because they skip that hard part, the uncertainty that you're
Yeah.
talking about, right? And in
Yeah.
fact, they almost always end with that. Like, great.
Right.
What happens after that? How does it continue?
Right. We're
Um,
led to believe that's happily ever after. And quite frankly, happily ever after takes work.
Yeah, a lot.
well, great. Thanks so much. I appreciate you digging into whether that would work in therapy, and the answer is no.
Mhm.
Reality is more complicated than that.